Hey everybody, welcome to Kraken One Open. I'm your host, Nick Cody, here in our Seattle studio, recently completed. And with me is our host and resident hockey expert, Jameson Edwards. Jameson, how's it in Chicago? And in 10 seconds or less, let the folks at home know, what is your favorite Billy Joel song and why?
Oh, good Lord. In 10 seconds or less?
Clock is ticking.
Clock is ticking.
Now.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
5 seconds left.
Great Suburban Showdown off of Streetlight Serenade.
And done. You got it in time. I gave you 10 seconds because I knew what a challenge that would be. So folks at home that don't know, the intro music you just heard, that's Jameson right there. Where's Jameson? Check him out. If you're here for the first time, we're at Kraken One Open on Twitter or Kraken One Open with a 1 on Instagram. And hopefully you found our YouTube video because as we'll be talking about in the penalty box later, last week's episode was only available on YouTube, as we just found out before this show. So the great thing about this show is we like to just crack one open, talk hockey, and we hope you follow along, point out our mistakes, laugh with us, and drink along if you want, whatever your adult beverage is. But the first thing we start off with is the face-off. We talk about any new gear we got, any updates, and we share what we're going to be drinking. But first, got to show everybody that I finally found a new place to put the Kraken hockey puck that I picked for our background. And as you can see right here, I have a bottle opener that is going to be perfect for this show, and another new addition for the face-off that we'll have round out. Any new additions in your side there over Jameson?
Just a small one for right now. Got myself a pair of these old Kraken workout shorts.
Nice.
So there will be more coming. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit too.
Love it, dude. Love it. And the real question of the day is, what are you drinking? Are we going with whiskey again, friend?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I'm just remaining classic with it. Do you have the Kraken glass?
Yes, sir.
Good lighting for that one.
I've got it. Already got a little bit of the Kraken in here. Went a little over my skis last week's episode, so I'm going to keep it just to this glass here. But in our koozie, I've got what I'm going to be cracking open here on our new bottle opener. So that's another Space Dust, my tradition. And unfortunately, this is probably going to be one of the last beers I have in a while because for the next couple of days till I go to Vegas, I'm going to be cutting out the beer, trying to go a little more low carb, trying to be health conscious, But no one cares about that. What everyone cares about is let's crack one open, baby.
Release the Kraken!
Wow, that's beautiful, right? That's the new addition to the show. You like it?
That's a good one. That's a good one. That caught me off guard.
Yeah, I'll drink to that. And speaking of drinking to that, here we go to our penalty box. Probably our favorite segment because we get to scrutinize over last week's episode and the mistakes we made. Or in the case of my first mistake, didn't even get the episode onto SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I forgot to upload the audio version. So hopefully you come to YouTube, you subscribe, you're in the comments already, you're letting us know what you want to see because, if you're relying on that audio feed, I let us down last week, Jameson. My bad.
I mean, in fairness, YouTube is the best way to look at it because you get to see our pretty faces, our responses just in the moment, physically, preternaturally, if you will.
Yeah.
That being said, if the audio is how you prefer, there's nothing wrong with that either. That's why it's there, or will be.
What do you got from last week for the penalty box?
So I went on that tirade about Evander Kane.
You did.
Most of which I stand by. That being said, I scoured everything that I could find. I specifically said that he had thrown his wife down the stairs.
You did.
Could not find what I had read. So that's probably not true. That is me just probably misquoting an article or misreading an article. Totally screwed up. That being said, and I'm not trying to cover my tracks with this one, I did find a number of articles where he had physically assaulted women in a bar in Buffalo. So it's not outside his character. That being said, I did misrepresent him in that particular scenario. So I'll drink to that.
And holding ourselves to these high journalistic standards, yes, you will drink for that. In addition to those high standards, if you were listening on the YouTube, it's a good thing you probably didn't have the full audio quality or focus in, because if you listen to the background, and I even noticed it while we were recording last week, oh, the audio was so hard to edit. My bird decided he was going to get involved and contribute. So right now he's in a different room, completely separate from here. That mistake won't happen again, because there's a couple times in there he just wanted to lay down that background music, man. So cheers.
Cheers, mate.
That's on you, Spike. That's on you if you hear this. Anything else, or are we wrapping that up?
I mean, I'm sure there'll be plenty in the coming hour, but as far as that's concerned,
yeah, once you get into that third period on a tirade of f-bombs again, that's when the show gets
actually okay, maybe I should drink to the excessive cursing,
only because I know it'll inspire more.
My mistake. Cheers to the folks at home. I'm terribly sorry if anybody had children listening, or if you're just notably susceptible to getting triggered to curse words. In any case, I apologize.
Yeah, so, no worries.
Here we are.
Adult show over adult beverages, and we hope you're drinking one at home along with us. Create your own drinking game. Submit them to us. Let us know, and let us know what we should be drinking for next week. But
that being said, can't call me out on saying I mean.
No,
because
can't.
I went back and listened to last week, and the amount of times I said I mean to introduce a thought, oh my god, you will die of alcohol poisoning. I don't want anybody drinking of that. I don't want to be responsible for your obituary.
We do recommend being responsible, and that's a great note to end the penalty box. You aren't meant to stay there. You're meant to get out. So
crack a bottle.
So I think that means we're going into the first period. So Jameson, what are we talking about in the first period this week? What are we deep diving on with the Kraken?
Well, firstly, I'd like to point out my boy Connor Carrick. Big reason I want to point that out. Well, actually, two boys from Washington. Big reason I wanted to start with Connor is because he played at my home rink out in Orland Park, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
He's a few years younger than me. I actually had a chance to skate with him on the tail end of me being old and him being young and just being a spring chicken. But he was always real good. I really hope that he does well for you guys. I mean, he had his best years up in Toronto after having left Washington. Not great career statistics. He has 49 points in 241 games, but he also had to play in some weird markets. Didn't get a ton of reasonable looks in Washington, so that's hard to evaluate. I think he's always been like that middle ground guy where he's gonna be struggling for the third line. I can't really talk poorly about him, but I can't hype him up either. I mean, I'm never gonna rip on some dude that I quite literally skated with, but I mean, I wouldn't put too much thought into. I mean, he's making what, 850 or 800 for this year. To me, that contract is very much a like sort of stride along contract. He might find his legs in Seattle. You know, he might look really, really good. It's hard to say before any definite games have been played, especially going into training camp. Could be the perfect system for him.
So not someone necessarily to keep your eyes on with expectations, but someone that you have a familiarity with that you think, hey, you know, the right things happen. This is someone that we should at least give a shout out now, because we'll throw back to it later and give ourselves a big pat on the back for that.
Yeah, and again, good old hometown boy. Yeah. Not necessarily Chicago, but going back to Orland Park, again, where I skated as a kid. So
and what's that like to, and just give us an idea of your skill level compared to his? What's it like to know you're on the ice with someone that will potentially someday be in the NHL? And what is that gap like for people to understand that are maybe new to hockey as Seattle fans?
so I was never on a team with him.
Mhm.
Let's just get that out of the way. Again, there is the age difference. Actually, I can tell you his birthday is April 13th, 1994, whereas I'm April 1st, 1990. So I'm over 4 years difference. So when when I was on my way out, he was on his way in, as far as like midget level players, which is 14 through 18, minor, major, whatever. You you don't really see it in casual skates. I mean, we used to skate with Kendall Coyne, who's a gold medalist for the American women's hockey team. She skated doing the fastest skater against Connor McDavid.
Wow.
What was it, 3 years ago? I've lost all track of time with COVID.
What's even crazier about that is I have a slight connection to the U.S. women's hockey team. The same strength and conditioning coach I had at the University of Oregon went and worked with U.S. women's hockey. I think, yeah, the last Winter Olympics. So,
Wow.
I never watched women's hockey until someone told me, "Hey, you got to tune in. Coach Rad's there on the side," and there he is. Little scrawny guy, and just, we used a lot of like slide boards and stuff to be able to project lateral movement, especially pulling guard. You got to be able to open that leg and just slide and put everything on that one inside planner. So I thought that was a brilliant transition for him, and just a quick little bump there because I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much of hockey training is that just sort of not necessarily lateral or upward. It's just explosive movement.
Yep.
It's not a.
He's one of the founding fathers of plyometrics, which is probably the greatest ways to build explosiveness in your training.
Exactly. It's not how fast you can say it. It's how fast you can get to a reasonable speed that's higher than whoever else can skate there. Because in hockey, you're always stopping and starting, which is the inherent nature of plyometrics, which is, again, what you said, the sort of why it's so transferable.
Wow.
So that's an incredible connection.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That being said, moving ever so slightly forward, another Washington boy, former Washington boy, made his way up to Seattle, Marcus Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I loved him down in Washington. That being said, he's had a number of really rough years. I do have a couple of stats to just rattle off really quickly.
Let's hear them, man.
7 years in Washington, 501 games played, 102 goals, 188 assists for 290 points, plus 22. Mathematically, the best years of his career. He's only shy of being as old as I am, which is 31. Yep. He'll be 31 in October, which means that not many guys have any level of huge resurgence. Post 30.
Yeah.
That being said, he has been plagued by injuries. In 2017, the year before the Capitals won the Cup, he went to New Jersey. It has been argued that part of the reason the Capitals won the Cup was that he left. That's not my contention, but it has been said. So 77 games played, 41 points. He was a minus 26, which, I mean, plus minus is not the greatest metric by which you could judge an individual player, but he did miss 28 games after getting elbowed in the head by Brad Marchand from Buffalo. or not Buffalo, Boston.
Ooh,
All right,
good catch. Good catch.
I'm gonna drink to it anyway. uh, that was a forward-thinking slip because he did go to Boston and play with Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
Which was a reasonably big trade. I want to say it was a first and second round in 2019 or a second and third round in 2019 and 2020, something along those lines. That being said, he went to Boston, suffered a lung contusion, which I mean, he was just knocked out for 10 games, or he was capped at 10 games, didn't play again. Went to Buffalo, who signed him on a 2-year 4.5 per, which Buffalo is kind of notorious for signing really bad contracts at this in this iteration of the management level.
Yeah, just down there.
I mean, with a guy like Skinner or previously discussed Jack Eichel making $10 million a season, they're just overpaying guys that they're just basically throwing a boomerang and hoping it comes back with some value.
Damn.
But I mean, he ended the season, which realistically was a really good season. He played 60 games, put up 30 points. Whether or not that's worth $4.5 million is arguable.
Yeah.
Then he went to Minnesota. I want to say it was his first game back after being injured. He went headfirst into the boards, and it was a quote unquote upper body injury, but he said he didn't have full control over his legs, which is scary. I mean, that's a neurological thing at the very least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that being said, ever since leaving Washington, he's played 183 games, put up 88 points. He's a negative 49, which is it. Again, plus minus is a sort of terrible metric by which to associate a player, because it depends on the team, depends on the circumstances, depends on the strength of the division.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 million factors go into it. I think this is another sort of prove it year, because they did sign him just for 1 year, 1.5 million. I think that's a good valuation, especially coming off of a $4.5 million contract. I mean, you give a guy like Connor Carrick $800K, just double it for a guy that's been on the cusp of winning a cup with Washington and just plagued by injuries. I really hope he can avoid injury and really show some genuine production for you guys, because it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I mean, again, sort of a natural bias. 7 years in Washington, did really well, and then ever since he's just kind of been hurt and underperforming. But I think for that valuation, it was a really good signing.
Yeah. And, you know, we on this podcast will always be rooting on those former Caps, always in your honor there, Jameson. But anyways, anyone else you really thought, you know, we talked about all the notable signings and free agents and a lot of that stuff we hit on last week. Is there anything else really notable you want to hit on before we talk about jerseys and merch?
Oh, well, we did talk about the reassessment of the Grubauer contract.
Oh, yeah, we did bring that up last week. So how crazy is it, number one, in you know, for number one, hockey contracts in general? Just give us an idea. How distinct are these things, and what was the difference here? That was like, what happened? Okay, we submitted the wrong contract, so I think a lot of people that don't know hockey were a little nervous, but it seems to me like this was just something that recently changed, and maybe they just, you know, like we joked in the last week, like someone in accounting needs to get a talking to, and other than that, fix it, move on.
Right. And I mean, It seems to me that this was just like a managerial flounder.
Mm.
I don't think there was any manipulation intended,
Mm.
realistically. Um, the, I mean, delving into the realistic history of it a little bit, started with a contract in 2010 with a Russian player named Ilya Kovalchuk, who was a contender, if not a winner, of the Rocket Richard Trophy. He played with the then Atlantic Thrashers, or the Atlanta Thrashers rather, who have since moved to Winnipeg. Um, very, very talented Russian player, right-handed shot, who was putting up 50 goals with Marian Hossa before Marian Hossa came to Chicago and had all those cup-winning years.
Mhm.
Um, New Jersey tried to sign him in 2010 to a 17-year contract worth $102 million, in which basically the last 6 years of his contract, they were paying him the league minimum.
Mhm.
And the league stepped in and said, you know what? No, 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 no. You
Yeah.
don't get to sign like this retirement contract.
Yeah. And front
And
load it.
yeah. And in retrospect, the timeline worked out perfectly because this year he would have made 750,000,
Hmm.
which would have been his last non-league minimum year, and then he would have just made 550,000 flat for the next 5 years,
Wow.
which is unreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which kind of, I mean, I don't know the exact breakdown year by year of what it would have been 2010 until now.
Mhm.
I know we talked about it individually or like pre-show, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to rattle each year off. That being said, the league stepped in and said, no,
Hmm.
we have to put our foot down and say, you don't get to just say, okay, we're going to pay this guy $12 million this year and then
Hmm.
just have him step away and we'll just be like, yeah, you know, we're going to give him 500,000, 550 or 750 or whatever. It's disingenuous as far as contractual signings are concerned. So
it makes sense though, because again, this doesn't seem like them trying to do the same thing there and front load it intentionally, but the rule itself that they changed, you can't have exceed a 25% variance within a coinciding year, an adjacent year. So that is important for competitive fairness in terms of team, especially a team that's willing to pay a lot now and then say we know we're going to suck later or have to restructure something. So you see that in a lot of pro sports, and it's good that the NHL at least keeps a close tab on it, because I mean you don't want any pro sports to turn into what kind of baseball has right now, because you're not pulling in new fans with that kind of a big money strategy.
Right. And I mean, as far as, okay, again, don't drink to me saying, I mean, relative to say the Yankees having $500 million just to toss, I'm just creating an arbitrary number. I don't know baseball.
Yeah, you're probably lowballing that a lot.
Right. Yeah. I'm saying back in, I believe it was 07, the Rangers, before they did all this reallocation of salary cap and year-to-year contracts and stuff, they signed a player named Scott Gomez, who was at best a second line center, making 10 million per year. And
that many years ago,
pretty much anybody who thought about the game or paid attention to contracts at the time just sort of said,
what?
You're going to give a second line center 10 million? You're making more money than Sidney Crosby in his prime. This Scott Gomez is a fucking nobody.
Yeah.
He's not a bad hockey player, but he's not the cream of the crop. He's maybe top 100 players. Probably top 100, but he's not top 50. I'll say that right now. But he's not worth $10 million. So it was more or less the reallocation of the funds necessary to keep the league competitive and not just say, hey, you guys have all the money.
Makes sense.
And I mean, at the same time, it's kind of fun to watch the Rangers lose since '92 with Brian Leetch and Alexei Kovalev.
Woo, you haven't been holding that one in your entire most of your entire life, have you?
Yeah, no. Oh wow. I mean, Alexei Kovalev, the laziest successful player of all time.
Woo! We're not even done with the first period yet. You're getting bold out here, my friend.
No. That's a well accepted idea. Fantastic. He's one of my favorite players of all time.
I just love your passion right now, man. That's what I'm saying. It's high.
Fair enough.
Love the enthusiasm there. So wrapping up our first period, it's been a little long one, but our second period, we've only got so many things around the NHL to cover. But one thing we wanted to talk about, since we've been trying to acquire more Kraken gear, we wanted to talk about what jersey would you get if you were going to get a custom jersey? And I'll start off before I say my actual just custom jersey. I really want to get one of those Dick's Drive-In hoodies. I know I sent it to you. I'll throw a picture up here, but I just love that has that look to it. The more than just the logo, you've got the ship there getting devoured by the Kraken. My biggest problem is I can't decide if I want the home or away. That's my problem with it, because they both look fantastic.
Personally, if I had to go with one, I'd go with the dark. It's just too sexy.
I have to, not just because it's going to eventually come down to that with this or the custom jersey I get at some point. It's going to have to be because white, I just stain too much, man. I'm awful.
I mean, feel like it. I mean, look at the color scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the outlier here with the white Capital shirt, eh?
Yeah, that and I love the constantly darkening lighting, so it just emphasizes the red all around you, just brings you full Caps fan as we get deeper and deeper into the madness of the show. But if you were going to get a Kraken custom jersey, what are you going for?
Oh, that's something I've been thinking about myself quite a lot. Part of me wants to go with the Grubauer. I mean, it would be pretty sweet if they actually mass produced a Carrick jersey, just because, again, got to represent the hometown boy.
Yeah.
I think as far as a custom made one is concerned, it would be pretty friggin' sick to have Matty Beniers 21 on the back. Not because he's gonna wear 21, but because that's the inaugural year, first overall, first pick ever. I think that would be pretty cool. It's a probably non-traditional, maybe a little outside the box, but I think it would be something to hang on the wall and say, hey, I was there. Nice. I mean, not physically, but I was paying attention when it happened, at least.
And yeah, who knows? I mean, that could be, especially Seattle teams. I expect this jersey iteration will probably not last very long. I know that Vegas didn't get alternates until I think this last year or the year before, but I imagine Seattle will be trying to push the boundaries on how often they can expect their fans to get uniforms, because look how much people are willing to go out there and just shell out. I know people are so excited for these already that they're like, man, how can I get one now? And you got to tell them like, oh, well, actually about that, you gotta still wait. And I know people are actually buying it. I see a ton of knockoffs around here, but if I were going to get an official custom made, oh yeah, I mean, this is Amazon Central, so it's a lot easier to go ahead and people will go and find just different ways they can go out there and figure it out. And as you already know, I've gotten all this off Amazon. So if you want to go out there and get this yourself, Amazon is the place. And this is at least legit NHL quality, but and labeled. But yeah, you can go out there and you can get a lot of stuff on the internet besides Amazon that isn't going to be taken down. So I've seen custom jersey websites that have gone up and come down and all that kind of stuff. But don't get your counterfeit stuff. Get it legit. If I got the most legit custom jersey I would get is go with my classic growing up football number before college, number 69, just because it's the best hockey goon number out there. And my name on the back is, if it's not going to be hashtag Kraken One Open to promote the show, it's just going to say nice. If I want player though, Yanni Gord, maybe Giordano, those would both be solid. Like, I'm not gonna hate them. So
No, yeah. I mean, cheers to both of them. Both great hockey players. I really hope that they can just keep their success flowing and find a way to find synergy within the scope of Seattle, honestly.
I hope we can find some synergy going into our period 2.
Release the Kraken.
We got a few of these to go through and try out. I think we've got the one we're gonna stick to from the show, but I'm gonna play at least one more before the show ends. You guys will enjoy. I'm already enjoying these sound bites enough. And if you have any idea of a Kraken theme or what a Kraken sounds like, we would love to get that on the show. Use it whenever we can. Be annoying with it whenever. So for now, we're talking period 2, which is around the NHL. What's going on? What's happened in the last week? What do we got to talk about?
Well, unfortunately, we have to start with the passing of Tony Esposito.
Damn.
Blackhawks legend. I'm just gonna go ahead and rattle off his accomplishments. I mean,
you go for it, my friend. I'm gonna finish my glass for him while you do it.
Yes, sir. I mean, going back to 69 with Montreal winning the cup. He was a 3-time Vezina winner with Chicago from he was with Chicago from late 69 to 84. Most shutouts recorded or most shutouts in recorded history. Damn. Calder Trophy as best rookie that year. Played in the Summit Series for the United States against for Canada rather. Canada versus Russia, the former Soviet Union, I should say. I'll drink to saying the United States. I don't know why
we're getting to that point of the episode. It's excusable.
Hall of Fame inductee in 1988. Similarly, his number 35 was retired in Chicago. Still hangs in the rafters.
Wow.
If anybody is ever in the United Center, it's a terrible loss to the game of hockey. He was not only a fantastic player, not only for the time, but transcended like the natural ability, but also the inventor of the butterfly style of the goalie. If anybody's not familiar, it's more of a sort of lateral movement, pads down, glove up, sort of looking around, like closing the 5-hole rather than doing backflips to make saves for absolutely no reason. More of a economical way of looking at it. Pretty much every goalie nowadays is sort of in debt to Tony Esposito.
Yeah. A stretch to say the Wayne Gretzky of goalkeeping. cheesy and a stretch, but
A stretch. I mean, okay, in fairness, I'd be hard pressed to find a
better.
different name.
Yeah,
I mean,
statistically.
maybe going back, someone like Jacques Plant, or I mean, you you could make a million different conversations out of that one. But I mean, Tony Esposito, over 20 years in net, especially with years that were not catering to goaltenders. I mean, especially through the 2000s and early 2010s, where the pads were so big that you actually didn't really have to move. You just didn't have to give away certain parts of the net, to the point where, I mean, I had the pleasure of watching Marty Brodeur over his shoulder when he was in Chicago.
Wow.
Right before he retired, who I believe he has the most wins ever. Check me on that for next week. Noted, right?
Yeah.
But just watching him warm up, he was still doing like bicycle kicks. I mean, this dude was pushing 40, and it just incredible to watch. He was very much a product of that old school, very versatile, athletic goaltending style.
Yeah.
Whereas Tony Esposito sort of introduced the idea of you don't have to move that much. You just have to position yourself properly.
Interesting.
So that was a big one.
And did that help the longevity of his career ultimately? Because when you explain it like that, and going back to what I know about, explosive strength, plyometrics, in hockey, especially, you're going to get roughed up. You're going to get banged up a little bit. Did it help him maybe avoid injury because of that? I mean, that just seems, in my head, that's the first place I go.
I would imagine so. I mean, going back that far, I mean, don't drink to that. The equipment was so bad. It's often considered how much the leather of especially the leg padding, just soaked water over the course of the game, and by the end, you're lugging 25 pounds of water.
Oh yeah.
And so it's hard to say. I mean, he potentially could have hurt himself more by playing that style.
Yeah.
That is something that I think we would need a goalie to talk about.
Yeah, we can.
I've never been a goalie. So.
Yeah. I've got a friend, Brandon. I'm sure he's listening. We're gonna get him on the show at some point. I might try and get out and skate with him sometime. Believe it or not, I've been trying to get myself kind of planning, at least, to gonna cut a little bit of weight, so once I hit the ice it doesn't hurt so bad. But need to get back out there on skates a little bit, and just I want to learn more about the game, man. Just doing this podcast with you has been so much fun to just finally understand a little, like, even this, I'm learning a little more about goalie styles. And even though that's just that kind of peripheral view, for you not experiencing it, like, even that's like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, that you'd form this entirely different style, particularly as the game's changed. So, man, on that level of education, and just one more time, rest in peace, and we'll kind of wrap it on that somber note. But for the rest of the NHL, what should I be aware of as a new hockey fan? What's going on right now this last week or two that really is getting you excited and started to ramp up towards October?
I don't know if it's getting me excited. It's getting me kind of scratching my head a little bit. Some of the defenseman-based contracts. Downhill Nurse up in Edmonton. I mean, I will say the first one was Seth Jones, 9.5 million in Chicago. What? Most of my friends are around Chicago.
Yeah.
just said, okay, yeah, I know that sounds fair. And to me, I just thought, you're getting paid as much as Ovechkin. You better make something happen. I'm trying so hard not to curse.
Hey, man.
It's $9.5 million.
Oh, I mean, having been to Chicago myself, that's probably a year's worth of deep dish pizza for me. So
I mean,
I can't lie to you, man.
It's probably 2 months worth of rent, isn't it?
That's another consideration right there too. I'll drink to that. But hey, I'm telling you now, just with the food I had in Chicago, you'd have to pay me a little bit extra because I'd be eating enough. You just put me in goalie and I just block the whole net, baby.
Right. Give me those mid 2000 pads and I'll just stand there for 60 minutes.
Yep. Let me just stretch it. Let me just stretch a lot before and I'm good to go. Just hold down for it.
Hit me with that Malnati's and I'm good.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, it's some of those contracts are just, I understand the urgency of the free market, but good Lord. I think that's going to be something to keep a very keen eye watching, because if guys like Darnell Nurse and Seth Jones don't, at the very least, play a good plus minus, at the very least, that's going to be a hilariously overvalued set of contracts. It really bothers me collectively, because I mean, you get someone like John Carlson down in Washington, who I think is making like 7.1. I'm gonna just double check that, but something like that, where it's just, how do you pay someone who's not guaranteed to really step up and do it for you? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Carlson's making 8. So, but at the same time, he's also been a multiple all-star, won the hardest shot, I think, a couple years ago. I mean, he's been the sort of like the anchor of the Capitals blue line. So I understand 8. But 9.5? Good Lord. Again, you're making more money than Nicholas Backstrom.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get it.
Is this a product, though, ultimately, of forecasting the NHL salaries to grow like other pro sports right now? Even though the fan base and the television revenue isn't quite there, it seems that there is like this growth in all the major pro sports of kind of, there are these niches where we're overpaying athletes in certain areas. And I think a lot of it is projecting revenue forward. And I don't know if that applies in the NHL, because new fans aren't just coming into hockey every day. There's a lot of like tradition with hockey families and what it comes into. But maybe as a Kraken podcast, maybe we're just bringing in a new audience between that and Vegas that they've never seen before. Maybe people are over planning for that.
Right. And I mean, from purely a marketing standpoint, which I like to think that we're attempting to encourage, is just individual likability as far as players are concerned. That's why, I mean, Marcus Johansson hasn't been a Capital for years, but I'm sitting here talking about him like he's my friggin' nephew, you know, like which that's not my saying. That was from a Capitals based call it fan page. Russian Machine Never Breaks. Not trying to drop names here or anything. I have no affiliation with them, but they said Marcus Johansson signed with the Capitals. Please don't get hurt. Please. Because that is pretty much the outlook as far as Capitals fans are concerned. Like, even if we can't sign you, we want you to succeed otherwhere or elsewise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've noticed that you make that very abundantly clear, but especially with our caps to Seattle guys. But yeah, we know you guys are a passionate fan base. You don't got to keep letting us know again. You guys let us know all the time. God damn it.
Yeah,
I see Ovi jerseys more than any. Ovechkin jerseys are the one jersey I see out here in Seattle that you just, I'm like, I know this guy loves hockey, but come on, it's too easy. That or Sid the Kid, and that's about all you see out here before the Kraken started coming up.
right. And I mean, for me personally, I'll never forget walking into Yankee Stadium with an Ovechkin jersey shirt on, and I was with my friend who was is a big White Sox fan.
Mhm.
We're going to see the Sox play the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, and a couple guys said, "You know where you guys are, right?"
Wow.
Because it was at the introduction or the first round, I should say,
Hmm.
where if Washington had won, they'd be playing the Islanders in the second round. And I just said, man, like I want the Islanders to win too. I, if it comes down to it, yeah, I have to I have to pull weight for Washington. But if Washington doesn't win, I'm going to be cheering for the Islanders, and that's 100% right hand to God truth.
Yeah.
And we had the greatest time just hanging out with them, watching the Yankees game.
Damn, that's dope, man.
So, I mean, yeah, I can throw around all these statistics and I can throw around my allegiances, but at the end of the day, I just want like the integrity of the game to remain consistent.
Yeah.
Which is why I hate Evander Kane so much. But I had to toss that in one.
I feel you, dude. And it's a great I guess a great transition into our third period, talking about other teams. We'll get to it, but just to cap off the second period, I think that's a great point because the experience, like you said, like you connect with certain players because of the experience they make you feel, either through the game or through how they carry themselves off the ice. And I think that applies to a ton of sports. And in hockey, it's like you want to see the good guys not only succeed, but make their money. And then when there's somebody that you just don't connect with or just don't see, and they're out there making near $10 million, like we've talked about a couple times, that kind of money is, but whether it's 2007 or now, $10 million is family changing money. That's changing your grandchildren's lives already. So, I mean, that's in pro sports, we're only going to see it go up more astronomically, but it is important for the fans to hold those people to the high standards because they make money off the ice. All these endorsements and people that are likable, they find their money even if it's not through the contracts. So that's always important to keep in mind in pro sports. And I know our Kraken fans are going to be out there supporting every single one of them. And I know that because as we go into our third period, that's when we talk about our fans, and their engagement is what drives this period. So good second period, and let's get this third one going.
Cheers, mate.
Release the Kraken!
That's the one.
God, I love that soundbite so much.
That's the one right there. And the only thing that beats it, I was trying to find a decent sound of just a cap just coming off like, psst, but nothing beats the Release the Kraken. So we'll stick with that from here on out. In our third period, we go first to Twitter, where you could find us at Kraken1Open, and we hope you respond. But we asked our fans what they wanted to hear this episode, and as usual, our super fan at Kraken Up North has responded again. He said, which Pacific Division fan base is going to cry about our D crushing their forwards the most? MCD, PD, and Johnny hockey fanboys are going to hate us. And me as a noob, no idea what that reference is, but go ahead. Tell us what you think about there. Which Pacific Division fanboys is going to cry about us the most? And do you know who he's referencing there?
I mean, that's kind of a hypothetical, I think, because just as recently as today, there's been talk about Drew Doughty moving to San Jose. Drew Doughty being one of the I don't want to say the next Rob Blake, because nobody touches Rob Blake, but as far as his tenure in Los Angeles is concerned, I don't know. The West is so hilariously weak.
Well, do you want to know what our fans think, or do you want to share that, or your personal opinion?
I want to hear what the fans think before I say anything.
So all of our Twitter messages this week. Woo! We're in the third.
Oh, period. Here we go.
That's how you know it's the third period. I'm already stumbling over words. But
Yowza.
All our Twitter responses this week, and one YouTube, which you'll cover. We basically have two similar responses to the same thread. Joel Knutson.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
You can guess. It's the same team. Both of our responses are picking the same team. They're saying the same thing.
Is it Vegas?
No, sir. It's not. Nope.
All right. Nope. Well, I'll drink to that then.
You'll drink to that, and I'll go ahead and let you know by whipping out some old school gear. The first response at JRock5158 said the Oilers, and then Cracking Up North responded saying probably, although they at least have Nurse on the back end for some potential retribution. And then we had another follow-up response to that said from at Chasing Kraken, fantastic username. He definitely the Oilers, and that's just in time for me to go ahead. And as they've retired it, this now is a relic from my playing day, literally day in the CFL. Got a little Eskimos hat, and that's been canceled officially. So the Elks, if you guys want to send me a new hat, go ahead. Just for the mention, I think you guys could go ahead and
it's an obligation at this point.
Basically, that and you owe it to me at this point. Okay, I've said enough nice things about Edmonton at this point that's owed to me. But hey, every one of our fans so far that's responded has decided the Oilers are going to cry about our D crushing their forwards. D crushing is a very, very difficult wording there. I want to be very careful around D crushing.
I am. I feel like that's a really cheap answer.
Yeah.
Not to discredit the conversation or the interaction by any stretch. I don't mean to shit on you guys, but God damn it.
No, it's okay. You go ahead.
But offense is all that Edmonton has. And there's a reason they've not been a good team for 20. Good Lord. What, like 34 years?
From what I understand, as someone, actually, I've been told that their biggest mistake ever was letting Wayne Gretzky go to LA. So as far as my 1 week in Edmonton, that was the one biggest thing I learned there. No, not football related. The playbook in the CFL, that didn't stick. But Wayne Gretzky getting traded, dude, you don't talk about that in Edmonton.
that might be the worst trade in sports history that has ever existed. That's not even a.
I'm willing to put that up for a debate in another
Okay.
Maybe
Okay. Well,
maybe we modify the around the NHL in the future when we don't have enough to talk about. That will be a great subject right there.
okay. I'm just saying they sent him to Los Angeles, which was not a reasonable team, just a big market.
Yeah.
There was fluctuation in under the table deals that made it okay for Edmonton, but Edmonton has not been good since then.
Yeah.
They've
makes
been
sense.
an absolute mess of a team. I mean, you talk about first drafting a guy like Nal Yakupov, who had a fraction of one good season.
Hmm.
And they're just fucked off to
There you go, man. Well, at this point,
back off to Russia.
I think it's safe to move on to our one, I believe, email comment came in through kraken1openpod@gmail.com. You can go ahead and email us there. That was your friend Andy. He said you should look at the current free agents still available, as well as popular trade options that Seattle should still consider. Maybe look at center depth and go from there. Perhaps a how far out discussion about Beniers. So how far out are we from Beniers really producing for this team, getting in one of the lines, and also what quickly, just what free agents available would you love to see Seattle just going after?
I mean, the problem is the market isn't really catering to Seattle's availability at the moment, as far as I can realize or understand. Realistically, I still think they have a lot of cap space. They could easily trade someone like Giordano to. Okay. I'm gonna pump the brakes on that one. They're not gonna trade Giordano.
Yeah.
But
Fair.
as far as his cap evaluation is concerned, I still think that there's no superstar to
Build around. Yeah.
really just generate. I mean, there's already fan interest.
Yeah.
Which is initial.
Yeah.
But there has to be hype that is continuous. And I don't think there's a certain player on your team that really has that marketability.
Yeah, to wrap it up, I think in my opinion, I think what they've kind of hoped on here in Seattle is that we can bank on the marketability of the brand. And right now they're building defensively and they're building from the goaltender on out, which seems to be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Captain wise, I would guess, and most people are saying, and I say this is a newbie, but this is what's everybody's saying, Giordano, probably the captain, and who's possible after that is a discussion of, a lot of different ways that I have no grounding or foundation. And I just listen to everybody's feedback coming in. And it really sounds like whoever steps up in the first year could have that mantle passed towards them, or they find someone else in the next year. But it sounds like at least they're trying to be sound defensively. And that makes a lot of sense with the culture of Seattle, where they've seen success in the NFL level with the Seahawks, really building up a frontline defense. And then when they were most successful winning, they were paying Russell Wilson a rookie contract. So that guy right there, your megastar, getting paid as little as you can possibly pay him. And I think, not first round money, you're helping the rest of your team right there. So maybe in terms of how I can apply that in a hockey sense is hopefully they hope that the brand will carry them until they can have a star emerge naturally.
I mean, I kind of agree. I think as far as addressing the latter half of the question, as far as Beniers goes, I'd be interested to see how he would perform at the AHL level. The only reason I say that is because of a guy like Connor McMichael, who's just lighting everything up uh, between the Junior Knights and the Hershey Bears for the AHL affiliate in Washington. I always wonder if what his statistics, his being Beniers, if those are transferable when you're playing against the elite level, even against like a third line of players, like those guys are professional hockey players.
Yeah.
I kind of resorts back to your question about playing against Connor Carrick, where it's like, yeah, you can tell when you're on the ice. It's just like, oh, good Lord, this guy is good.
Yeah, there's a gap there, and again, you notice that too. And the guy's so young too, coming out of Michigan. You can only hope that that development with how he played in Worlds is going to carry over in some way. Maybe not right away, but eventually. So. You with that pick for the jersey, man, that I wish I would have thought of that, because that's great. A 21 Beniers jersey, like that could be worth someday. Again, with the brand changing like we expect it to, like that jersey getting it now might have some market value down the line.
Well, we'll see. Maybe
we will absolutely see. So I think that's our third period perfect wrap up, and we can go into sudden death.
Release the Kraken!
Oh man, that's too perfect. So
I love that.
Sudden death is where we go back and recap our favorite parts of the episode briefly. We tell you where you can find us again, and we remind you, please let us know in your comments, let us know in your replies, let us know if you tag us on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere. Let us know what you want to hear, because we'll give it to you. We're right here ready. And if you catch any mistakes from this episode, besides me slurring words, because that's going to happen regularly. If I mess up names, I'll drink for it. Slurring words, that's to be expected. We're just going there. But I just want to say my favorite part of this episode so far is it was a little more free flowing. We didn't have so much like specifics to talk about, but I got to ask questions. What I really love is when I get to use my noobishness, if that's a word, to hockey, to go ahead and ask Jameson questions that help me understand the game more. And I think this episode was really great for that, especially getting like kind of the understanding of where money is in comparison in the NHL versus other leagues, and the individual players, just the difference between getting paid. And like we saw with the Grubauer contract, like how the NHL is trying to at least keep that manageable. Is pretty interesting to me, and I think it definitely something we're going to follow up on in the future. What was your favorite thing from this episode?
I mean, aside from talking to you, which that's a cheap answer. I've already used that. I'm gonna drink to that, because that's
a throwaway. But hey, I can't blame myself. That's just what I do.
No, I mean, honestly, just recognizing Tony Esposito and all the accomplishments he had, and what he meant to the city of Chicago and the organization of the Blackhawks. As much as I enjoyed everything else, I can't help but give a bit of recognition to him and his family.
Exactly. And I think, that's the responsible thing to do. And us doing something responsible at the end of the podcast is going to be rare and something that we should note, but something that's completely appropriate. Rest in peace, and check us out if you haven't already. Let us know, like and subscribe. But pouring the rest of this one out
to Tony Esposito.
Tony Esposito. Thank you, man. And if you enjoy this music, check out Where's Jameson. I told you that before. Come back next week. I will have us on audio a day late. Every Friday, you find us here on YouTube. Let's crack one open, baby. Tony.
Nice to have you, everybody.